Marsha a good Oklahoma warm welcome.
Thank you, Travis. Thank you so much. Lovely. We have some people here from the Zig Ziglar Institute, and I have to congratulate them for what they do, because in 1972, I went to my very first Zig Ziglar presentation all those years ago. I still have my 6-set cassette tapes. And they are still, that information is still as valuable now as it was back then. One of the quotes that Zig said that just stays foremost in my mind is, "They can't get your goat if you don't tell them where it's tied up." So that's what the reactor factor is all about. It's about being able to look at some of these different things that we do on a day-to-day basis and to understand we can change and we can have improved outcomes if we so choose, but it's totally our choice. It is totally our personal responsibility. Changing habits is not easy, though. And for many of you right now, you have a pen and paper in front of you, and I would like you to just pick up that pen, if you'd be so kind. Find any old piece of paper, and you've got quite a bit in front of you, and I would like you to sign your name, because signing that name is your habit. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to figure out the way the paper is placed, the way the pen fits in your hand. It is automatic. This is the reactor factor. We oftentimes don't think about the outcomes we're going to have. We do it naturally. Now, my goal today in the next 45 minutes or 50 minutes is to help you look at some different things that you could choose to change. So put your writing instrument in the other hand, sign your name again, and yes, there is a time limit. Please go ahead and do that now. Okay, time's up. Now, I actually gave you more time than you needed to sign your name initially. But let me ask you a question. Signing your name using the other hand, was it easy or hard? How did it feel? Awkward, weird. It's kind of like change, isn't it? So my challenge for you then is, as we go through our pyramid and as we start looking at the reactor factor, understand that we need to focus on what is appropriate for us. Now, you do have a handout in front of you, and if you're interested to follow along, please feel free. Now, let me share something else with you. The PowerPoint that I'm going to be going through, and I always do this, please know it is available for you. If you are interested in receiving the PowerPoint or any of the other handouts like this, because you want to use them with your team, you might want to use them with your family, then what you can do then is on this little yellow sheet, which is my newsletter sign up, please feel free to just put a note on there, send me the PowerPoint, and I will get that off to you. I send it by hightail because it is a big file. So just write, send me the PowerPoint. You can use it. I don't care about copyright. You just go ahead and use whatever is appropriate for you. Today's going to be like a cafeteria line. We'll go through a lot of things, many of them that you already know. You've heard of this stuff before, but you just don't use it consistently. Perhaps you do use it consistently. So pick and choose what is appropriate for you, for your group, for your particular situation. When we look at the very first part of our triangle, we're looking at perception. Perception is our frame of reference, and what I think is cool, especially about being a behavioralist, is that everyone in this room, we're very similar, but we're also very different. We had different parenting skills that came across to us. We had different education that happened to us. We may have lived in different geographies. I know I started out in Southern California, which is much different than when I was transferred to Atlanta, which is much different of my current home of Scottsdale, Arizona. That creates part of our perception of the world, of life, of our job, of our colleagues, than anything else. So we really want to understand that frame of reference is different for everyone, which means that the way you perceive things, the way I perceive things can be very, very different. So if I were to just throw this up here, could you pick up that pen again and write down one word to define what is up on the screen right now? Just one word. What does that mean? Someone tell me, what does this represent for you? A pound? Okay. Somebody else? Hashtag? What else? Tic-tac-toe, I heard. So here's how perception is adjusted. With something this simple, we've got different definitions. I have an elderly friend, she's 95 years old, and she was having a problem calling her financial advisor. She says, I get this thing and they're telling me to hit the pound key. And she says, I don't have a key on my phone that says LB. So we have to be aware that the way you perceive things, the way I perceive things, the way the people at your table perceive things are going to be much different. And it is our personal responsibility to clarify, to verify, to make sure that we are talking from that same piece of paper. This is interesting. We judge people oftentimes by the way they dress, don't we? But how about we don't change the look at all, but what we've done is changed what they have on. It becomes a judgment, doesn't it? Right or wrong, it's still our perception of the world. So when I think about this, I want to look more about some of these generational differences. This is a huge topic in today's environment. Whether it's business, whether it's not-for-profit, generational divide is enormous, and we know that. I've done quite a bit of research on it. And I have a little video to show you, and I want to see if the perception of what you are watching changes on a generational basis as we look at this video. Is that perfect? Isn't that amazing? Did you see what your mind did in the perception? I mean, we did go all the way from that whole, Gen Y through the traditionalists. It's interesting the perception that the Gen Ys have of themselves. Look at the disparity here. It is amazing. Where you have the way Gen Y looks at themselves, and then you have the way human resource professionals look at Gen Y. And I think the most amazing thing, there's a couple outstanding things on here for me personally. Look at the tech savvy. Gen Y thinks that they're, maybe 35% they're really good at technology. Are you kidding me? You want to know how to run anything, call a 12-year-old. I mean, it's amazing, isn't it? And look at HR, they think 86% of these kids, they know everything about technology. Look at the last one. Look at the last one on loyalty. Isn't that amazing? So we have this difference in perception. I think it is ultimately our responsibility to learn about the different generations and to understand the different generations. I've done a lot of research on it, and there's a lot of things that I've put together, and I'm just going to brief through some of this, but I do have a handout. Part of your handout is this. Now, again, if you want the PowerPoint, if you want this particular handout to share with your group or whatever, just put it on that yellow form and tell me, and I will send that to you. But this kind of goes through the boomers and the Gen Ys and the Gen X's. When we look at these different generations, you'll see the traditionalists, look how many of them are still in around, 75%. And actually, of that 75 million, I should say, there's still approximately 5 to 7% of them still in the workforce. Then look at the boomers, 80 million of us out there. The Gen X is 46 million, Gen Y 76 million. I just want to do a little analysis in this room. How many of you find yourself, and I can show you here on the traditionalists, how many of you are 25 to 45? Let me see a raise of hands. Look at all the hands up. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that amazing? See, and they're still kicking. I mean, it's awesome. My husband is 75 years old. Look at the differences, though. Look at the differences. They have a different perception of the world than most other people. They were raised in wartime. Many of them went to war. They had rationing and all these different things that most of us have never experienced. And the further away we get from that, the more obtuse this kind of thinking seems to us. The respect for law and order. They love the consistency. You know, they want to basically be given a policy, be told what to do, so that adding that creativity to them and asking them to do that may not be as easy. I'm not saying they don't do it. It's just a bigger stretch for them. And oftentimes they're past oriented. They have very cool lives and very wonderful experiences for us to share with them. So, what we know is that they love to communicate differently than many of the other generations. They love one-to-one, face-to-face kind of information given to them. They love hierarchy. They love the formal kind of interaction. They love receiving notes in the mail. You know the kind of mail for some of you that are younger, where you put a stamp and then you... I don't think my grandson understands that whole thing. They feel rewarded when a job well done. And here's some language that I found that really works well for them. Your experience is respected. They want to know that. It's going to be much different than the boomers. I was born in 1946. You don't have to get your pen out. I'm 68 years old, okay? And to 62. Now, you will notice, and some of you may be saying, I see some of the heads kind of tilting, these dates will change depending on the demographer that put the information together. You'll see sometimes where Gen X especially is A and B. You've got two different categories. They're doing the same with Gen Y. So this is from a demographer that I follow a lot that I particularly like. But look at the difference. Open-minded, ambitious and loyal, job status is important. I can remember where a job title in my corporate life was more important than the pay increase. You give me a job title, I was good to go. I'd make the same pay. You know, and I can see the Xers and the Ys in here going, really? Wow, that's amazing. So it's not wrong, it just happens to be different. Then the boomers, we do like teams and meetings, and I think oftentimes it's because it's how we grew up. We grew up many times with a very cohesive family unit. We're used to that kind of environment. It's not right or wrong, it's just what we experienced. We don't necessarily appreciate direct feedback. So if you're an X and you have people that are boomers working for you, going to them directly and telling them what's wrong may not be the best approach. And I'll talk a little bit about feedback. But you can see that the language they like are you are valued and needed. It's important for them. Then we've got the Xers, 63 to 77. These kids typically were latchkey, and you know what that means. It means that they were at home, mom and dad were working, or the parental unit was working, and so they were given a key so that they could go home after school and let themselves in, which means they're great problem solvers because they were on their own a lot. Not right or wrong, it's just the way it is. Gen X's, they like to communicate in a very direct manner, very quickly, and they like it to be very easy for them. Freedom is the best reward for them. You want to give them a pat on the back, give them a day off. They love that. And don't count it against any kind of accrued vacation or anything like that. Look at the difference in the language. Do it your way and don't get hung up with the rules. Can you see the opposing view here with your traditionalists? It's huge. It's huge. You've got these people on the team, they're going, but wait. It's not working for me. Then you've got the Gen Ys. These kids really are, see, I can call them kids because I'm old. I like that. Tech savvy, diversity is expected. Now, this is what's interesting. I do a lot of diversity training. And when you get a group of Gen Ys and they have to go to diversity training, they don't understand why. They already get it. You know, so there's some opposing view, but then you look at the traditionalists, you look at the boomers, and they're going, oh yeah, I'm good to go. I need to learn about that. Whether it be cultural, whether it be racial, whether it be age, it doesn't matter. That kind of diversity is expected by them. They do like workplace flexibility. And if you've studied at all about Google, some of these nuanced companies up in the Silicon Valley, I mean, it's basically a free-for-all. I know one of the things that Google is doing is that you can come and go to work when you want. There's no set times. You can work on basically the projects you want to, and you might have a peer where you go to the peer and say, hey, what are you doing? That looks interesting. I want to work on your project instead of mine. As long as you hand off what you're doing, nobody cares. Pretty successful company. Bring your dog to work, dress however you want. You know, it's amazing to me. It's amazing. It's totally different than the way I was raised in the corporate world. Gen Ys are very interesting, and you may have read articles. Time has done a lot of articles. There's been a lot of articles in the Harvard Business Review about the Gen Y and how to manage them, how to lead them. These kids are called the tethered generation, and the parents are called the helicopter parents because they hover. They want to really be connected with the kid. Now, I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but I do work for a company, Procter & Gamble, up in Chicago. In their interviewing, they actually had to figure out how do we separate the parents from the kid so that we can interview just the child and not the parents. Seriously. So they came up with what they call a parent viewing room. So the parents, truly, the parents go into this room and there's like a nanny cam, you know, so the parents can see and hear what's happening with the interview with the kid. Now, here was the problem. They were texting back and forth. So they basically had to say, you pull out your smartphone and the interview is done. That's how close the parents have become with these kids. Have you ever heard of that, of having to separate the parents from the children? Anybody ever heard of that? Anybody ever heard of that? Okay, I see a couple hands up. So it's not just me making it up, it really does happen. So it's interesting for us to look at that. Then we look at Gen Y, engage with others, very participative. And this again is because of the way that they're raised. Not right or wrong, it just is. They love email, voicemail, and of course now they love to send you a little video. You know, the FaceTime and all that sort of thing that, you know, my grandchildren are teaching me how to use, which is fascinating. Meaningful work is rewarded. They want their work to be honored. And so it's really important. They're motivated by, you get to work with other bright and creative people. It's different. It's just different. So when we look again at this list, you can see that there is an enormous gap in perception. It's our job then, so that we're not reacting to the situations, because remember, reacting is knee-jerk, responding is learned. So if I can learn about these different generations, I'm going to be good to go. Now, new generation coming up. And they call these kids the connected generation. These kids don't know anything but technology. Have you seen these kids? Have you been to an Apple store lately? Have you seen these kids? They have this little table with these little bouncy ball things. I was in there the other day. I spend a lot of time there, by the way. And there was a couple kids, I'm going to guess maybe 2.5 and 4 years old. That would be my guess. They had those iPads and they're laughing and poking. Come on, Mom, come look at this. I mean, it's amazing to me. And they're so savvy, so young. It's kind of scary though, isn't it? Because I think it's going to change the way that business works in many cases. Now, there's something else I want to mention to you. If you want to write down this website, it's reactorfactorbook.com. And one of the things I'm going to recommend for you to do, go into that and download some of the documents that are in that. It's all free. So download some of the documents from this book. The one that I'm going to recommend that you look at first, it's called A Leadership Scorecard. And if you want, I can send this to you in a Word format so that you can tailor it for your particular group and for your particular necessary outcome. What I like to do is to give this to somebody and say, okay, I want you to rank yourself on your communication, your listening skills, your engagement, your celebration, and all this. I want you to rank yourself. Take that sheet and put it away. Then what I want you to do is send this out to your peers, your colleagues, whoever you're concerned about that you might have a varying perception. gather them back anonymously, and then you get out your sheet that you've filled out. You look at how they have ranked you and their perception of you, and now you can find your own gaps. You don't have to tell anybody what the results are, but I do recommend that you go back to them and say, thank you for doing this, because this is why people don't fill out surveys. And here's what I learned. I'm going to give you permission to help me change and to be able to manage that. Remember, it takes 21 days to change an old habit. It does not happen overnight. So I have to allow other people to tell me and help me then change. The other thing that I wanted to mention on this this yellow form is that notice that I'm on Facebook. Follow me on Facebook. I'm always posting little quotes and that sort of thing on Facebook. The other thing is that if you'll be so kind, if you do fill this out, just leave it on the back table, one of the back tables. Yesterday we lost some because the cleanup crew kind of took them and threw them out. So I don't want that to happen today. So please know that. The other thing I wanted to mention too is on the flip side of that, some of you have already asked me about this. There are some programs, my books and such, that I have available. You'll see I have a bailout package, $70, but for you guys today, it's $60. And if you want anything, just go to the back table and we can help you with that. And we can also ship it to you if that is more convenient, because I'm really running out of things on this trip, so I apologize for that. Okay, when we look at the next segment here, we're looking at our belief system, the things that are right and true for us personally. I believe what's right and true for us is to make people feel rich, to make people's emotional bank account overflow with gold and with good stuff. So every time we communicate, and I think this is really an ethical focus, is when I communicate with someone, I want to give them a deposit. I want them to feel good. I want to enrich in their lives. My mission in life is to give back more than I've received and to connect my head and my heart with my mouth. We were talking about this last night at dinner. And my goal is, if I can help one person a month, that's all I want, is 12 a year, one a month, feel a little bit richer about their life, have a little bit more joy, I'm living my life's mission. I know that I've been put on this earth for a very specific reason. I had to figure that out. That's why I think that being able to write and speak to people and engage people is so important. Now, here's the other part of that, part of my mission statement and part of my giving back. You all in this room, we have over 400 people in this room. From this point on, I will be your personal coach. You can email me at any time. You've got my cell phone number. You have a particular situation where you might think that I might be able to give you some advice or give you maybe some considerations. You can call me. You can email me. My business card is on the table. So is that a deal? If it's a deal, say deal. Deal. Cool. I'm honored. Now here's the sad part of this. I've said this now for the last 20 years in being a public speaker. I get maybe 4 calls a month. I've talked to well over 1 million people throughout the world. People don't want to change. They don't want to learn how to write their handwriting and their name with the other hand. That's okay. And then I always think about what Mark Twain said. Mark Twain said the only difference between a rut and a grave is the length and the depth. I don't want to feel buried anymore. So I really want you to think about the deposit in someone else's emotional bank account. Just look around at your table, and I want you to picture everyone at your table with a little blue piggy bank on their head. They're going to think you're weird, but that's okay. Just go ahead and look at them. Okay, yeah, they're thinking you're weird. All right, that's good. From this point on, do that with especially relationships that you're trying to build. Deposit, deposit, deposit. Because in this day and age, a lot of people are emotionally bankrupt. They have NSF stamped right on their head. I mean, and it's very sad. As was mentioned in my introduction, one of my foundations is Women's Safety and Leadership Training. We recently, because in Phoenix, we just finished the Super Bowl, as you know, what was happening with that last pass? Another story. Anyway, what we know is that when communities have these big events that attract people from around the world, sex trafficking thrives. The day of the Super Bowl, we had 570 sex trafficking arrests in that around the Super Bowl. 570. It's horrible. It's just a horrible thing, but it's actually what's happening here in the U.S. Our goal is to inform and advise. The number one reason why these young girls get into this situation is low self-esteem. They have not had enough deposits into their emotional bank account. So it's very important for us to know that everyone we touch every day, they might just need a little deposit. They might just need to feel a little bit richer. And I really think this is an important focus for everyone to take. In your little handout there, you'll see that one of the things that you have on that, on the back side there, you got it, is this kind of diagnosis of the 4 different kinds of behavior. I think this is also part of how we perceive. And you, for those of you that have studied behavior, psychology, whatever it might be, you know this. There's usually 4 different kinds of behavior, 4 different kinds of communication techniques. This is your kind of your speed reading, your overview of it, but I would like to talk about that a little bit because I think it's important with this topic for us to delve into this just a bit. You've got 4 different kinds of people here. You've got the people. Typically, they're slower paced, they love to be around people. Not right or wrong, just is. These are the people that keep candy on their desk. And the reason is it draws in people like flies, right? And then they wonder why they're interrupted all the time. You got candy, right? These people are so important in our environment and on our teams because these people are the glue. They're concerned about other people. They love to be around other people. So they're great additions to any team. The next kind of person that we can look at, these are called the party people. These are the folks that are faster paced. I see people pointing to each other now, okay? Not even done and they're already pointing. And these are the people that bring celebration. They're faster paced and still people oriented. They can drive you crazy, however. These are the people that will come in and say, oh my gosh, I have got a story for you. I have to sit you down and tell you every tiny little detail. Oh my gosh, it's just so exciting. I can't even stand myself. And you're thinking, I'm going to need a couple sticks of dynamite to get this person back to their office. But they're fun. They're interesting to be around. They're great storytellers. Then we've got the next one. Now we're going to shift from people orientation into task orientation. The next one here are the planning people. These are the people slower paced and they love information. They love data. They love statistics. I could care less. This is not my primary style at all. I was an executive vice president for Westinghouse Financial, and I was the sales and marketing part, thank heavens, because I did not want to do the real financial aspect of the due diligence that we were doing to decide if we were going to fund or not. These people were critical on my team because this is not my strength. However, these are the people that are fine procrastinators because they always need one more study, one more piece of data, and I'm thinking, just make a decision here. They'll come into a meeting with this wad of paper and a PowerPoint to back it up. And it's a 15-minute meeting. And you're thinking, wait a minute, this isn't going to work for me. The next one here are the point people. These folks, again, are task-oriented, and now they are faster-paced. These are the folks, this is me, these are the folks you go into and say, okay, we've got 3 things to cover here. First thing is, second thing is, third thing is, you do this, I'll do this, here's the expected outcome, thanks so much, see you, bye, and leave skid marks. They're done. Now, can you imagine these people in a meeting? Think about the meetings you have. You've got a mixture. So you've got people like me, the point person, that when we receive the information we need, will get up and physically leave the meeting. Then you've got the people, and they're saying, well, this is Shannon's meeting, and it's not nice for Marsha to leave. It's going to hurt Shannon's feelings. I hadn't even thought about Shannon's feelings. I'm just good to go. I'm not trying to hurt her feelings. It's just my bottom line. Then you've got the planning people with their stack of stuff in their PowerPoint, and they're saying to themselves, well, Marsha doesn't have all the data. How's she going to make a decent decision without my information? I'll ask for it if I need it, okay? Then you've got the party people, and you know what they're saying? Well, today is birthday day, and we've got cake. Well, that's okay, I'll take her piece in her office. They'll be good to go. So right now at your table, very quickly, turn to the person to your right or left and just tell them where you generally find yourself in these four. Just go ahead and do that, just real quickly to the person to your right or left. All right, thank you. Let me ask you all a question. Are some of you feeling a little bit schizophrenic? How many of you found yourself to be more than one? Let me see a raise of hands. Of course. You know this. You already moved through them. You do it with ease. My challenge is do it on purpose. So if I meet someone that loves the data, my husband is a perfect example. He's a planning guy. He was a lobbyist for Greyhound bus lines for 28 years. You talk about data. When I get off the plane tonight in Phoenix, this is what he will ask me. What kind of plane were you on? I don't care. There was a guy up front and he was driving it, okay? Yeah, I had a seat and there was a thing, and I had an air vent and a light. That's all I care, okay? So you know what I've started to do? Because he always asks me this. I take the safety card out of the back and I take it, I don't have to remember that way, and I'll say, here, this is when I was on, Oh, well, what was the configuration? I don't know. It had some bathrooms and a kitchen thing and some nice people that were serving us stuff and, whatever. So it's really important for us to understand I can choose to be more flexible. This is why we do Myers-Briggs type indicator. This is why we do DISC, Honey-Mumford, TRACOM, style awareness. There's a bunch of assessments out there to use with your team, to use with your group. I'm actually speaking on Saturday to the Orange County, California Bar Association, to their board. Oh, that's always a fun group. And we're going to do an assessment because they want their team to be better managed. And I think that is really important. Now, here's the deal. If you want an assessment, you can email me and I will give you one that's called Style Awareness. It's real simple to use. You can use it with your group and I'll give you all the graphs and all the stuff on how to use it. So if that's of interest, let me know and I'll just send it to you and you can call me with questions or whatever is important to you. When we look at these different segments, think about when you're writing to someone. You can start to diagnose people just by the way they communicate. You can tell by me, and it's fun for me to look at the yellow sheets. I was looking at the ones from Tulsa last night. There was one, and she had her email, and all it said on it was PowerPoint. That's it. That's it. There was nothing else, nothing. Then there's another one that I was looking at, and obviously that person was a bottom line person. And there was another one that said, oh, this was so much fun. It was so great to see my colleagues. And it was just what a nice lunch. And boy, that salad was really good. And by the way, could you send the PowerPoint? I'm thinking, okay, there's a people person. So it's just interesting that even in people's writing, you look at the emails. Do they send you bullet points or do they send you diatribes? So it's fascinating for me to take a look at this and to see how we change. Now, here's the rub. 2% of the people that pass your path in life are never going to like you. They're not going to like the color of your hair, the sound of your voice. They are not going, yeah, see, some of you are saying, is it only 2%? Generally speaking, it is only 2%. If it gets up into, 8, 9%, you might have a little behavioral rift there, a little behavioral problem. This is when we go into therapy, but 2% of the people aren't going to like you. And yeah, that's good to know, isn't it? Yeah. Gene, if it's 1%, you're probably lying to yourself. No, just just kidding. All right, so the next one that we can look at is our judgment, and these are the choices that we make. I think one of the choices that we constantly make is how we communicate. How do we give feedback? How do we engage people? Are we really paying attention to what is coming out of our mouth? I do have to tell you that early on in my corporate career, I was very successful, but I was not fun to work for. I had a wrongful termination lawsuit because I was not a good communicator. I had someone that was always calling in sick. And I never missed a day of work in my life. I mean, that was just kind of my work ethic, and it was just lucky for me. And so this person called in sick one time, and they said, I think I'm not going to feel good in 2 days. So 2 days went by, and they didn't show up, and I said, you weren't here. Well, I'm sick now. And I said, okay, I want you to get in here, and we are going to vote and decide if you're sick, because we have a huge workload. And they said, well, I'm not coming in. I said, well, you're fired. Well, that was a wrongful termination lawsuit. We lost. And so big companies don't like that. Okay, so what they did is they sent me to charm school. Yeah, fine, great, whatever. So, I go to charm school, I learn a few things, come back. I'm kind of good for 3 months, and then I went right back into my old habits. So now I've got a person that has childcare issues. Well, I personally at 20 chose never to have children. I come from a really dysfunctional family, and I thought, I just don't need to breed. And so I made a physical choice not to have children. And so I never understood, and my compassion was very limited, on child care issues. And so this woman, well, Susie's sick again today and I won't be in. I said, you should have thought about child care before you took this job. You're fired. So there's another wrongful termination lawsuit we lost. And so now here I am back in charm school, okay? And I thought, I think they're serious about me changing. So that's when I started learning many of these things. One of the things that I learned is giving appropriate feedback. Because I think a lot of times we don't delegate, and we don't delegate well because we don't get good outcomes, we don't get good results. I mean, is this perfect? Can you imagine some guy saying to somebody, just go change the sign out in front? Okay then. So I think what we need to do is to use this terminology, tell them something they did well. That's sometimes very hard. You have to dig very deep to find something that was good, that one tiny little gem. And then tell them what possibly can be changed for next time. When I delegate something to you, I see that the outcomes aren't always according to my expectations. So here's what I would like to do. I'm going to start putting it in writing. That's really going to help me understand the verbiage that I'm using for you. The other thing I'd like to do is set some check-in times. That way, if there's any road bumps or anything happening, you can get back with me and we can share, what I need to do. And I have to tell you, is that we missed the outcome, we missed the budget, it was just terribly done, and I take full responsibility. Here's the personal responsibility. I take full responsibility for this poor outcome because I'm the one that delegated it to you. I believe that's the ethical thing to do. So think about how you give feedback. Instead of saying you coulda, you shoulda, you mighta. Do the like best next time. And I'll show you a picture, and I want you to think about, would you react or respond? My hope is that you will respond. And then how would you respond if you walked into this? Look how proud that child is. So do you walk in and say, would you look and see what you've done to little baby sister? She's going to be 12 by the time she molts out of that black permanent Sharpie marker, and it was. Or do you walk in and say, do you know what I like best? Look at those hearts on little baby sister's head. Is that the sweetest thing I've ever seen? And oh, look, you even did her toenails. Now, next time I would like you to tell me so we can get some paper and some water-based pens, and then we'll be good to go. So think about how we are responding. Is that great? Proud? You know, and we wonder why kids lose their creativity. I can just see a parent, well, I can imagine what my parents would have, I wouldn't be on this earth. I mean, that's what would have happened to me. Here's something else I think that's really important, is that when you hire a good employee, because good employees can go bad, and we know this. I have a couple ideas on what I have used in the past. I actually learned it at Charm School, of what can work. I think the first thing we need to do is to make sure everyone is up to date on what their real job description is. Your businesses are so dynamic, your groups are so organic, that what people do on a day-to-day basis varies. We need to get back to people, I believe, at least every 6 months. And we need to go through their job description, their expected outcomes, so that they know exactly what their responsibilities are. Then, what I like to do is I'll say to people, what do you think the consequences should be if these aren't achieved? People say, well, probably should be fired. You say, okay, let's get that in writing. Should be fired. Now, should that be immediately? Should we do some training, some mentoring, send you to a class? They are now telling you, and I know many of you have policies and procedures for this, but they are now giving you a way in which they're culpable for their outcomes. I think it's a great thing to do, even if you have that solid policy. And you might be asking yourself, how am I ever going to find the time to do all of this? There's so many things on your plate. There's so many things to remember. And I know because you are here today, you are also all lifelong learners. Time management has always been a huge issue for me personally. I get distracted. I have the attention span of a gnat. I swear, I mean, it is just amazing. And I don't like cleaning out closets. And I need to do that on a more regular basis than I do. And have you ever done that? We do it over the holidays. That's kind of our break between Christmas and New Year's, is we clean out closets. So we're cleaning out the guest room closet, take everything out, it's on the bed. And that the bed is like piled high. So I find one thing, and then I go into this other drawer, and I thought, oh, look at that drawer. What a mess. So I take everything out of the drawer. Well, I find something in the drawer that goes in another closet. So I go over to the closet. Oh boy, that one's a mess too. Take everything out of that closet. Now I have ruined 3 areas in the house already. You know, so we know that this can become a real issue. So a couple of the ideas that I've learned in the past is this one. And I actually have these 2 things posted by my computer, and oftentimes, several times during the day, I will ask myself this: is this the best use of my time right now? Guess what the answer sometimes is? Not so much. Not so much. You're really spinning your wheels here. The other one is, if I had time to do just one, which one would I do? How many of you have a to-do list? Let me see a raise of hands. Okay. Have you ever done something that's not on your to-do list? And you write it on your to-do list, and then you cross it off? Why do we do that? Oh, accomplishment. And it feels so good. You're going, oh. Have you ever gone home at night and your friends and family say, so what'd you do today? And you say, I have no idea. I was busy all day. You know, spinning tops and spinning wheels all over the place, and you've done nothing. It's crossed off your to-do list. So what I will do is I'll play a trick on myself. And I will ask myself, you know, look at that big to-do list and say, okay, I'm going to pretend that I'm leaving town for a week. If I could just choose one thing off this list that would give me the best, the most relevant, the most important outcome, which one would I choose? So I'll pick one thing, and I'll do that. And so you can't just look at the to-do list and get overwhelmed, because an overwhelmed mind does nothing or will do something simple and that's not on the list. It's just the way our brains work. Also, this is the timer I have on my desk. I don't know if any of you do this, but it works brilliantly. I love this because I'll give myself 15 minutes in a segment of time. That means I don't pick up the phone, I don't pick up my cell, I don't answer an email, I don't answer a text. I do nothing but focus on that project. It's why we come into work on the weekends, isn't it? For many of us, because you get so much done because you're not interrupted. Now understand that every time you are interrupted, it takes you 6 to 8 minutes to refocus to the depth where you were. So think about all the interruptions you have through a day. Someone walks in your office, you're answering email. Oh yeah, hi, how are you? They set something on your desk. Well, you better look at that. And so you're looking at that and the phone rings. Boom, now I'm over here. Now I'm looking back at that email. I see a file on my desk. I think I better, file that. You've now distracted yourself in less than a minute, probably 4 or 5 times. Times that time, 6 to 8 minutes, you can see how we don't get anything done in a particular day. So I love using the timer. I'll tell you what else the timer works for. I actually have a little sand timer. I learned this one in charm school too. A little sand timer. Do you have any people in your workplace that just like to bemoan things and complain, and they come into your office? Let me see, raise your hands. Anybody have those people? Yeah. See, some of you won't put your hands all the way up. I see. They may be sitting next to you. What I like to do is when people come in and they want to complain about anything, what I will say to them is say, I understand we all need our time to download. And as you know, because I'll set these ground rules ahead of time, you have got 3 minutes. Flip over that little sands of time timer and they'll launch. And they'll... Because they know what the ground rule is, and it's beautiful. Now, if they come in and they say, I've got a problem, I've got a couple solutions, I want to discuss that, that's a whole different thing, isn't it? That's a whole different thing. But if they just want to whine and bemoan a situation, I'm just not going to let it go there. I'm not going to let it waste my time. These are just time eaters, and I see a lot of you nodding your heads. You probably know exactly in your life who I'm talking about. And it really works. It really helps. But we have to manage our time more effectively, especially in this day and age. Now, when we look at our very last part here, what we're going to be looking at is how effective are we in actually taking action, in actually taking the initiative. I think that so many times we come to sessions like this, you have wonderful monthly sessions that your group puts on, and you think, I'm going to go back, I'm going to change that. I'm going to take that idea back, and I'm going to make sure that that gets implemented across the board. And then what happens? You step back through your door, and it takes over. It becomes that whirlwind, and you don't get anything accomplished. So what I have learned is that there are certain ways for us to indeed take action. And I love this because 65% of our stress is truly from lack of taking action and lack of planning. This actually, and many of you may know this is a corner in Russia. Now, can you imagine in the path of life and in the roads of life coming to this intersection? Do I stop, go, yield, caution, get killed? I have no idea. So it becomes prudent of us to understand there's a lot of things that we can do. I'd like to share with you a 3-step formula that I have used for the last 35 years of my life. And I don't say this to brag, well, maybe just a little bit. But I have achieved every major goal I've set for myself just by doing this. The first thing is, and you've heard this time and time again, Zig was always a big proponent of this, write your goal down as an affirmation. An affirmation is as though you have already achieved it, because what the mind perceives, the mind believes. If I tell myself I have already achieved a goal, you actually start to do it subconsciously and you don't even know you're going there. So write your goal as an affirmation as though you've already done it. So you would not use language like someday I hope to, I think that. You want to keep it in that affirmative mode. 1990, I'm transferred from Atlanta to my current home of Phoenix, and I had a goal because I knew I wanted to retire early. I'd already achieved that financial goal for retirement, and my goal in 1990 was to meet the man of my dreams. I had been married for 11 years, I'd been divorced for 18, and now I thought it was time for me because I was going to retire. I'm a sociable person, and I really wanted to have someone in my life. So I wrote my goal. I'm married to the man of my dreams by my 48th birthday. So I called one of my girlfriends in Los Angeles, and I said, I got a new goal. She says, oh, geez, what is it? I said, I'm married to the man of my dreams by my 48th birthday. Dead silence on the phone. Then she asks, are you going to date? I said, well, it's kind of part of the process, yeah. She says, I don't know if you've noticed, but you have dated in 18 years every loser, every wingnut, every horrible person known to mankind. You have personally been out with them. She says, so you can no longer choose who you date. And she says, I know how you set goals. She says, your second step is always to have an action plan, to write things down that you have to do to achieve them. Now, they might not be things you want to do. They're things that you know you have to do. She says, so I want you to write this down. Find a matchmaker. Boom, man, my brain closed. I thought, I'll write it down. I just won't do it. So back then, this is way before eHarmony or any of the online stuff, you know, and all those years ago. So I found a company, because I was an executive at the time in my corporate life, and I opened up the yellow pages, which are just about obsolete now, and I found a category called dating service. And I thought, well, that looks very nice. And I found a company called The Professional Connection. So I picked up the phone and called them. Just dialing the number made me nervous, okay? I get this great salesperson on the other end of the phone. She gets me hooked into this whole deal they had. I go down there, you had to record a video. They did a little dossier on you, and then they would match you. I had 2 dates that were a total debacle. And then I have this date from Albert William Sue III. I thought, well, isn't that interesting? So in his video, it said, if you're not into the outdoors, don't bother calling. If you're not used to riding in a truck, don't call. And he's got this Tennessee accent. I mean, it was amazing, and I thought, oh, geez, he's kind of cute, but I don't know, trucks, I've never ridden in a truck, you know, and so we went on our date. He says, well, when was the last time you were camping? I said, does this involve dirt? He says, well, I think it'd be a good idea. You put some of them jeans on, get some of those boots, and we're going to go camping. Jeans? I didn't own a pair. I did not own a pair of jeans until I was 47 years old. Mother called them dungarees, and only farmers wore them. So, I mean, here we are, we get in the truck, and we're driving out, beautiful area, and he wanted to show me this scenic lake, you know, fishing and all this other stuff. I thought, oh my gosh, what have I gotten myself into? And I get out of the truck after driving a couple hours in the truck, and I said, where are the facilities? Is there restrooms? He says, you see that log right over there? He says, you just go hang your butt right over there over that log. He says, I got toilet paper in my truck. I thought, I have never dated anyone that carried toilet paper in their vehicle. So we made a deal, and the deal is he does my passions, I love his passions, and so it's amazing. My wedding gift was an over and under Satori lightweight shotgun. So I can tell people that we had a shotgun wedding. So on your action plan, you have to write down things that you're thinking, oh man, that really is not something I want to do. It's something I need to do, but I don't want to do it. Might struggle with it a little bit, but we need to do that for ourselves. I'll tell you what, I would have never met my husband without that. I mean, I thought he had to be a mass murderer, have 14 wives with a last name like Sue. I mean, please, that's just so wrong. And then the last one here, and this is the reason that we don't achieve our goals. We do not stay focused and we don't stay flexible. How many of you set New Year's resolutions? Let me see a raise of hands. How many of you set some kind of year-end goals? Okay, a few of you. For those of you that do, what point in time do you forget about your New Year's resolutions? Yeah, 15 minutes later, the next day, absolutely. And this is why we forget what they are. So my advice is to have 10 or less goals, personal and professional, and to make sure that you implant those goals in your brain on a regular basis. I do it daily. I recommend a minimum of weekly, and this is why, because the brains are so powerful. Have you ever been driving to work and you're listening to music, you're hopping and bobbing along, and you get to work and you can hear that song in your mind all day long? You're standing at the copier, I hate that song now. Used to be my favorite. You put your head down on the pillow at night and you can still hear that song. You think, man, tomorrow I hope it's a new one. I'm so sick of this one. That's how powerful our brains are. So in order to stay focused, 10 or less goals, and to make sure that you play that back, whether it's weekly, whether it's every other day, just on a regular basis. And be flexible. Life is dynamic. Life changes. Your goals will change. And this is why people stop setting goals. They say, see, didn't achieve them. This is goofy. Why should I even waste my time doing it? It's because life has changed. Your focus has changed. The people in your life change. So give yourself a break and be flexible. And always ask yourself, am I doing this is because life changed, or am I doing it because I'm lazy? I just don't want to work that hard. And some people are fine with that, and that's an okay answer, but it's your answer, and you can't blame anybody else. I can truly tell you that not in a million years did I ever think that I would be dressed in camouflage. We were out, we do a lot of conservation, as was mentioned, in Arizona, and we were out truly counting sheep. Desert bighorn sheep, we do a lot of water projects because, as you know, Arizona doesn't get a lot of water. So what we do is we go up and we clean out the gabions, and then we want to see if there's more sheep coming into a particular water catchment. Pretty cool work. It's hard work, and you want to stay undercover, so we wear camouflage. One of my girlfriends saw this picture. She lives in Los Angeles in a condo in Marina del Rey. And she saw this picture, and she says, how do you accessorize camouflage? Emeralds. Emeralds work really well. Smoky topaz is good too. So we made a deal. I do his stuff and he does mine. I do a lot of fundraising. We do a lot of black tie, where he has 2 ties left in his entire closet. The good news is he has 2 ties left in his entire closet. And we love it. So it really gives us a challenge to do things differently and to stay open to each other's passions and to learn to respond to each other's needs and wants and wishes instead of reacting. But that's our job. That is our job. So as we look back at our little triangle here, I want you to think about one thing that we've talked about that was kind of an epiphany, a little light bulb went on for you saying, you know, if I did more of that, I could be just a little bit better in leading my life. Remember how we started today? We said it's like a cafeteria line. You're going to pick and choose what you want, what's appropriate for you, what's good for you, which is going to maximize you being on this wonderful earth in which we live. So right now, I'd like you at your table again, one more time, to turn to the person to your right or left. What is one thing that you're going to take away? Just do that real quickly, please. All right, thank you. Would anyone like to share the one thing that you said, ooh, I want to try that, I want to do that more? Anybody? Nothing, I learned nothing today. Yes, thank you. Write down your goals as an affirmation. That's critically important for us. What's something else that we talked about? Yes? 10 or less goals, because we do that, don't we? You know, we see other people's goals. Oh my gosh, you know, I need to write this lengthy list. A confused mind will not take advantage of what we have at hand. So absolutely. What else? What else have we talked about? Yeah, the action plan, to actually write down the do part. I want to leave you with one last thought, and it's this. A positive attitude may not solve all your problems, but it will annoy enough people to make it worth the effort. Thank you so much. God bless. Thank you. Thank you.